Cheshire celebrates National Disability Day. Tanu Vasa appointed Solicitor General. And Western Highlands education switches to Alesco.
This is the National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining me for Friday's news. Today is the National Day for People Living with Disabilities. The Cheshire Disability Services celebrated the day with various partner organisations under the theme Empowering People with Disabilities and Ensuring Inclusiveness and Equality. One of the points highlighted during today's celebrations is that PLWDs have equal rights as able-bodied persons and they should be included in every aspect of the society.
According to World Health Organization statistics, 15% of the world's population are people living with disabilities. And for Papua New Guinea, 1 million of the country's population are estimated to be people living with disabilities. For the people living with disabilities gathered at Cheshire Disability Services, it was a fun-filled day for them as they took part in singing, dancing and engaging in information booths set up by organizations like St. John Ambulance, Mary Stops and Digicel Foundation. During the NDD celebrations, Cheshire's General Manager Bernard Ayeko mentioned that when it comes to service delivery to people with disabilities, everyone in society has a part to play.
Persons with disabilities do not really have a problem. The problem lies with the people, you and I, who needs to create the opportunity for them. Many times we always look at the problem with a person with an impairment or a disability, which should never be the case. These people have everything they need, but the problem comes in when you and I do not create opportunities for them to thrive and to show their potentials.
A lot of issues regarding the welfare and rights of people with disabilities have been raised over the years. And this does not only include discrimination, but also how society perceives and treats PLWDs when they are accessing public services or interacting with the community.
They go through a fairly accessible environment in Cheshire, but when they go to mainstream schools, they cannot access the classrooms because the classrooms are all on posts. Communication. We have got those with communication problems. And after they have trained and they want to fit into the community have no idea how to communicate with them, then creating a limitation which then puts them outside of the social integration.
With this year's theme focused on empowering people with disabilities and ensuring inclusiveness and equality, Bernard says everyone in society should give opportunities to PLWDs in employment and access to services.
Being active in the employment field, employers want high-performance people, but not realizing that people with disabilities can also discharge some of the jobs that they want, but given the opportunity is all that they want. So basically the challenges are there, ranging from how they can access health services, how they can access social support services, and how the community's attitude can change towards them to appreciate them and accept them in their midst.
Patricia Chiamo, National EMTV News.
As people living with disabilities celebrate National Disability Day around the country, focusing on empowering and inclusiveness of people living with disabilities, Cheshire Disability Services General Manager Bernard Ayeko is calling on everyone in the country to work together in addressing issues and challenges faced by PLWDs. He says it is important that PNG has a national day for people living with disabilities so that leaders and government can understand the issues and challenges and address them accordingly. Mr. Ayeko says it is not only up to service providers and the government, but for everyone in the country to work together and make people with disabilities a part of the society.
Disability is a very cross-cutting issue, and it does not only lie with service providers like Cheshire. It's actually the role of everyone, not just even the government, but everyone, to be able to work together to ensure that people with disabilities are appreciated, they are given the opportunities, they have been given the right environment so that they can perform to their best. For the government, which is the custodian of our human life development, all we want is that the government should allocate necessary and relevant resources so that these people can access health services, they can access social development services, and they can access inclusive education services so that they can have a better future.
The member for Moresby Northwest, Makera Marauta, today renewed his call for a commission of inquiry into the 2017 election. This follows the release of a damning observer report by the Australian National University. The report is a comprehensive account of the election based on observer teams led by Papua New Guinean experts who covered 69 electorates in all 4 regions with detailed studies of 44 electorates. The former Prime Minister is calling for a commission of inquiry.
The ANU report claims the 2017 national election was not free and fair, and therefore the O'Neill government cannot claim legitimacy, nor can Papua New Guinea lay claim to be a parliamentary democracy. The report shows that fewer than 47% of the number of citizens surveyed after the election reported being able to exercise their vote freely. This was influenced by factors of security, ballot boxes, bribery, polling, counting, electoral roll and violence. Another key finding was the extent that money politics influenced the election. An observer in Goroka described the use of money, and I quote, "Money was flowing like water in this election. It controlled the election." Sam Makera says the growth of money politics poses danger to the country's democracy. He stated that a commission of inquiry should be a step forward towards restoring and protecting democracy. Another key factor in the report highlights the greater need to have a tight oversight of the Electoral Commission. The report recommended that the independence of the Electoral Commission needs to be protected and a whole new system of checks and balances introduced into its operations. Concluding, the ANU report states that the 2017 elections did not improve from the 2012 elections and describes the election as rigged and its operations administered and influenced by individuals who wanted to maintain or gain power. The report was released this week in Port Moresby and is available online. 69 out of 100 electorates were observed, study case done of 44 electorates, 33 open and 11 provincial. 258 observers took part, including 34 international and 224 locals. Jack Lepave Jr., National MTV News.
Yo, Friday's news. We have more of today's other stories when we come back from this break. Welcome back. 4 men in Manus have been charged for unlawfully wounding another person using the spear from a fishing gun. They have been identified as 31-year-old Samuel Bill, 26-year-old Sapak Bernard, 22-year-old Jeremy Sapak and 21-year-old Danny Eddy, all from Nihon Island in the Bisikan Soperibu LLG. Police allege that on 8 January between 11 and 1 p.m., the 4 suspects armed themselves with fishing guns, bush knives and iron rods and attacked the victim on Nihon Island. Danny Eddy was accused of shooting the victim in the chest with the spear gun, while the other 3 watched. Police responded and arrested the 4 men 6 days after the incident when community members reported it. Following months of court-related delays, Attorney General Davis Stephen has today announced the appointment of Vasa Tanu Vasa as the country's new Solicitor General for a 3-year term. According to Minister Stephen, the decision to appoint Mr. Tanu Vasa had been made following recent decisions by the National Court dismissing proceedings brought against the state by former Acting Solicitor General Faith Barton Keane.
In announcing the appointment of the Solicitor General, Attorney General Davis Stephen expressed relief after what had been delays to the appointment following court proceedings taken out by individuals over the appointment process.
Faith Barton had commenced 2 separate proceedings for judicial review. The first one having been dismissed by Justice Thompson, and the last one by Justice Nablu last Thursday. In the meantime, she has also sought a review before the Public Services Commission that was declined, and in making this announcement. I hope that this matter can now be allowed to rest, especially for the benefit of the lawyers of the Solicitor General and all the clients that we serve throughout the country. Upon advertisement, all the interested applicants were shortlisted by the Human Resource Division of the department, and that went to a committee, an independent committee. Mr. Tanu Vasa, top scored, and his name has been recommended to me by the independent panel. And following consultation with the Prime Minister, I hereby announce that I'm making the appointment of Mr. Tanu Vasa as the Solicitor General of Papua New Guinea.
Whilst the appointment of Tanu Vasa as Solicitor General has now been complete, Minister Davis has also announced that the Department of Justice and Attorney General will also be soon starting the appointment process for the position of State Solicitor, the state's chief legal advisor, a process which Minister Stephen believes should take less than a month.
The State Solicitor's position is a very key position in government administration and government decision-making process. So I'd like to see this taking place in a 1 month period. Appointment of lawyers should not be politicized. And also it is important that we notice the importance of the role of that office, especially where government decision-making process is concerned.
According to Minister Davis, with recent appointments to various offices within the Law and Justice Department, he is confident the department and its line agencies are well placed to provide improved services to the people of Papua New Guinea.
So with this appointment of the State Solicitor, hopefully it completes the process. We now have a new public solicitor, new public prosecutor. We have a Solicitor General, State Solicitor's position being advertised, process, following due process, announcement will be made. And of course the departmental head.
Merabatulo, National EMTV News.
Western Highlands is the 15th province in Papua New Guinea to use the Alesco payroll system. The provincial government and the Provincial Education Board launched the payroll system yesterday.
The Alesco payroll system will help eliminate salary issues affecting teachers. The system will be controlled in the province, which means that teachers will no longer be traveling to Port Moresby to address their salary issues.
How will you know that you are either missing out or you are being paid? So those are the issues that we will try to address when the Alesco is here.
Teachers throughout the country have been faced with pay issues, entitlements and late payment of entitlements and fortnights. A lot of times, teachers' absenteeism in class to travel to Port Moresby to fix the issue has affected students' learning. Provincial Education Board Chairman Lawrence Penna warned teachers that with the Alesco payroll system operated in the province, no teacher is allowed to miss classes. Teachers who are absent in class for more than 4 weeks will automatically be put off payroll.
If they are faithful, they are committing their time, and they are providing the service that's required of them as teachers, we as responsible administrators and people in charge need to make sure we take care of them, we look after them. I don't think this is only confined to Western Highlands, but Kures and Kamloops, if you can agree with me, I think a lot of people throughout the province are having similar problems. I think the way forward is to decentralize the system.
Western Highlands Governor Pius Wingti has been supportive for the payroll system to be in the province. This is part of his support to education to ensure all children in the province are well educated.
As soon as the inspectors and everything get the quality of education right, get it right at the bottom level and start moving up, there will be a different trend at the top. Now selections is online. Thanks God that's happening.
Vasa Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Kina Bank has been given full regulatory approval to acquire ANZ, PNG's retail, SME and commercial businesses. This follows a determination by the Independent Consumer Competition Commission mid this week. In a statement released late this afternoon, Kina Bank CEO Greg Pawson said the deal would strengthen the PNG financial services sector and provide Kina Bank with an extended national footprint and an enhanced capability, giving customers a better alternative and real choice. He further added the integration program aims to be completed in September this year, resulting in a significant upgrade of Kina Bank's infrastructure, core capability and the introduction of innovative new digital products and channel offers. Close to 90% of ANZ staff have signed to transition and will be bringing close to 60 jobs back to PNG to complete the transaction by the end of September. The Department for Community Development and Religion today launched the Disability Grant Guidelines to support persons living with disability. The Disability Grant Guideline is to facilitate inclusion and equality to persons living with disability. Speaking at the launching, Community Development Acting Deputy Secretary Joe Itaki said under this guideline, service providers for PLWDs can now secure funds from the government to help PLWDs.
The launching of the Disability Grant Guidelines coincides with the National Disability Day, which was also celebrated today. The launching saw all persons living with disability attend to witness this exciting event. Community Development Acting Deputy Secretary Joe Itaki said this year's theme for the National Disability Day focuses on empowering PLWDs for an inclusive and equity, leaving no one behind. The Disability Grant Guidelines will serve as an opportunity for PLWD service providers to secure funding from the government to help them.
Now through this policy, and by PNG, ADB, NDB, to come up with a filtering point, facilitation point. So from you cloud service providers, come to umbrella body now, all by facilitating straight come on department. So from the department in terms of grants, all by now give him straight come on UPLA.
Itaki stressed that the government has been providing disability grants since 2008. However, this has not been effective and stopped in 2012. With the launching of the Disability Grants Guideline today, the program will be effective this year. He said the Disability Grants Guidelines are aligned with the National Disability Policy that was launched in 2015.
The dynamics of this guideline are more reflected in the policy. So I'm aligned both through, so guideline by staff long or policy by staff long like a thinking or something.
Mr. Itaki also added that the department has plans to reach out to all districts through the district's community development centers that will be built in all districts in the country. Through these centers, issues relating to persons living with disability in rural areas of the country will be addressed.
Where the department's DCDC is, District Community Development Center, is a disability office will be in that district. So you are assured that legal services in relation to disability matters, and it's now brought closer to the districts.
Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
You're at National EMTV News, stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, New Zealand may not be immune to the viruses of hate and the fear of others, but it can be the nation to discover a cure. That was the message from the Prime Minister today at a national service of remembrance for the 50 victims of the Christchurch mosque attack. It was a time of reflection, prayer and song.
United by tragedy, today the families of the fallen and those who survived came together to remember.
My father is Ashraf Al-Mursi Rajab.
Salma Raghib bravely reading out her own father's name.
He was a really nice man.
So many names.
Ata Muhammad Ata Elayan.
Too many.
Lilik Abdul Hamid.
Listening to them all was just so hard.
I am saddened that when I look for them, I can no longer see the beautiful faces of the 50 men and women and children that lived among us only 14 days ago.
Survivor Farid Ahmed, whose wife was gunned down, warmly welcomed.
This heart doesn't like that the pain I have gone through, that any human being should go through that kind of pain. That's why I have chosen peace, I have chosen love, and I have forgiven.
Words of forgiveness, words of peace.
Our prayers go to those shining souls whose lives were snatched away in that moment of madness. May peace be upon them. Peace in this world may take a bit longer. I'm going to sing a song for you now.
His words wrapping around the thousands filling Hagley Park.
Now I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is.
Muslim artist Yusuf Cat Stevens
Glide on the peace train,
singing an anthem for this time in this city. A city that gave an ovation for the Prime Minister, applause drowning out her first words of welcome and compassion.
Those values represent the very best of us. But even the ugliest of viruses can exist in places they are not welcome. Racism exists, but it is not welcome here. An assault on the freedom of any one of us who practices their faith or religion is not welcome here.
The family of Daoud Nabi.
This is what we need. We are human.
Overwhelmed by the day.
It meant a lot just after Dad and all the family have rest in peace.
I miss my husband and my children miss my father. Yeah, he's a very good man.
Grief they felt the entire nation shared with them today.
A high-powered delegation from Australia, including the Prime Minister Scott Morrison, were also at today's memorial service. One survivor of the attacks saying it's important they take some responsibility, given the alleged gunman is an Australian citizen.
A show of unity from across the Tasman, laying flowers at the Al Noor Mosque this morning.
Hi, sir. Nice to see you.
To have the Australian Prime Minister, Governor-General and Leader of the Opposition represented in New Zealand in this way is unprecedented.
While this didn't happen on our own shores, it certainly felt like it did.
But more than that is the fact the murder accused is an Australian citizen, a burden to Fazal Alam says Australia need to own.
The terror came from Australia, so they have lots of responsibilities about that.
Tafazil was praying in the Linwood Mosque when the second attack occurred.
They could come here and they could at least show their respect, and they can take their responsibilities.
Is there a sense of guilt, a sense of responsibility in some way, given that the attacker is an Australian citizen?
The crime was perpetrated by an extremist terrorist, and extremist terrorists have no nationality.
Dignitaries from around 60 countries were represented at today's memorial service, closing political and cultural divides.
Despite such a significant event today, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern still made time to meet with Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, where he acknowledged the impact the tragedy has also had on his country.
The bilateral meeting discussed coordinated action on social media reforms and as for extradition of the murder accused.
No, there's no discussion of that.
That's an official conversation left for another day.
A British Muslim leader who protected a terrorist from an angry crowd has received royal recognition after the attacker drove into a crowd of worshippers outside a North London mosque. The man shielded him until police arrived.
And
the aftermath of the Finsbury Park Mosque terrorist attack, an angry mob tries to swarm the far-right killer Darren Osborne. He'd just driven a van into a packed pavement of Muslim worshippers, killing one and injuring 9 others. The crowd dragged him from the van enraged. But the man who came to his aid, shielding the terrorist from mob rule until police arrived, was Imam Mohammed Mahmoud. He was widely hailed as a hero.
I've never accepted that title or that description. It was our duty to de-escalate the situation.
His actions in 2017 received global attention and today, regal recognition. Prince William awarding him an OBE at Buckingham Palace. But he says that night in 2017 opened his eyes to Islamophobia.
It was, of course, a night of realization where Islamophobia was no longer simply the ramblings of some madmen. It's a real concerted effort with only one objective: to strike fear and to sow division within this society.
In the wake of the Christchurch attacks, flowers pile up outside the Finsbury Park Mosque, which knows firsthand of the grief. The Imam has just returned from visiting Christchurch to help support its Muslim community and
to thank Christchurch for their sincerity and for their authenticity in how they came out in condemnation of this attack, to take swift action that is lasting and meaningful.
His message, one of peace, one he preaches and practices.
Pilots have said their training on the Boeing 737 MAX was a short administered online course. They said it made no mention of the software system that's now being investigated as the possible cause of 2 crashes. One of those crashes occurred earlier this month in Ethiopia.
We're strapped in for a flight on board an Ethiopian Airlines flight simulator at the Airlines Aviation Academy. This is the only simulator in Ethiopia for the Boeing 737 MAX 8, the aircraft that crashed 2 weeks ago, killing all on board. The simulator, we're told, was purchased in January of this year. Chief Pilot Johannes Hailemariam takes us through a brief pre-flight checklist before takeoff.
So we are in Addis.
Within minutes, our simulated flight has begun. Flight ET302 took off in a similar way. From Bole International Airport, nestled in rolling green and gold hills. 1,000. It was at this point, 6 minutes into the flight and still climbing to cruising altitude, that Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 encountered major problems. It eventually crashed into a field south of Addis Ababa. How and why this happened is still under investigation. And it was also at this point, the 13-minute mark, that Lion Air flight nearly 5 months before began its tragic and deadly descent as well. Our simulated journey, however, continues safely. But on board October's Lion Air flight, the automated MCAS anti-stall system was trying to force the nose down.
So this is what we call QRH, Quick Reference Handbook.
Chief Pilot Hailemariam shows us the flight manual for a 737 MAX 8. This manual contains everything a pilot needs for a flight, or at least it should. A source with knowledge of the aircraft says there's no information inside about the new MCAS system. A pilot on board a flight encountering problems could have found all kinds of emergency procedures and system descriptions, but according to our source, nothing on the MCAS. Inside this simulator, as safe as it is, our flight progresses smoothly. Chief Pilot Hailemariam flies the plane manually, effortlessly even. But if an actual flight were to experience an MCAS failure, the pilot would be left wrestling the airplane. These levers particularly, the pilot pulling up, the system pulling down in a tug of war. One that, according to our source, the aircraft doesn't know to stop fighting.
Chicago police have released a portion of their investigation into Justice Smollett. It comes after prosecutors dropped all charges against the TV actor, who was accused of staging a hate crime and filing a false police report. In the document, Smollett is referred to as an offender, begging the question why he was suddenly released.
Chicago's Fraternal Order of Police is asking U.S. Attorney General William Barr to get involved in the prosecutor's decision to drop the charges against Jussie Smollett.
We'll be asking for a full investigation on the entire matter, why the charges were dropped, and the state's attorney's involvement in this case.
Prosecutor Joe Magatz is squarely at the center of the controversy, being scrutinized for questions unanswered, explanations not accepted.
There's a lot more here that we're not being told.
Magatz says he alone made the call to drop the charges against Smollett, in spite of evidence reinforced by partial police investigation reports released on Wednesday. Among his reasons, Magatz says, were Smollett's history and the nature of the charges against him.
He had no prior felony background. He had no history of violence. Like I said, it is a low-level felony.
Arguments that one former federal prosecutor doesn't buy.
This is in no way a low-level felony. This is the most serious crime, faking a hate crime, lying to the police.
Magatz also seemed to make the argument that in a city racked with violence, prosecutors' resources would be stretched by trying the Smollett case.
We are focusing our resources on combating violent crime, gun crime, and the drivers of violence.
Every prosecutor will tell you that a crime that involves lying to the police and faking a crime is every bit as critical to the criminal justice system as violent crimes. So that is in no way an explanation for dismissing this case.
There are also questions over whether a secret deal was reached to get Smollett's charges dropped, an idea Smollett's attorneys have flatly rejected.
There is no deal. The state dismissed the charges.
But the prosecutor says there was negotiation with Smollett's lawyers.
I'd call it an alternative disposition in that he agreed to do community service. He agreed to forfeit his bail to the remainder of his bond to the city of Chicago. And in return for him doing those things, we agreed to dismiss the indictment.
Questions are also being raised over Joe Magatz's boss, Cook County State's Attorney Kimberly Fox, who, like Magatz, believed Smollett committed the crime.
This office believed that they could prove him guilty.
Fox recused herself from the Smollett case after receiving a private communication from Tina Chen, an influential friend of the Smollett family. Fox then suggested to the police that they turn the case over to the FBI, moves which police union officials want investigated.
Why did that occur? Well, what happened? Why wasn't there a special prosecutor put in place?
A question so far not answered by the prosecutor's office. Then there's the question of communication. Chicago police and the mayor say the prosecutor's office never told them beforehand that they were considering dropping the charges.
Not only did they not inform myself, the fact is when we came off the stage after the largest police graduation and promotion, find out about what's happening here, to me, makes no sense.
You don't do that without consulting with the police. You don't do that without telling the public in a high-profile case, look, this is why we really did this.
So far, there's been no explanation from the prosecutor's office for why they didn't consult the police on the decision. Jussie Smollett isn't necessarily out of the woods legally yet. CNN has reported that the Chicago police are assisting in an FBI investigation into a questionable, threatening letter sent to the production company in Chicago where Smollett works. The FBI isn't commenting.
True Guy Sports is next. Details after the break. Don't go away.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. The SPPNG Hunters showed some good form last weekend and improved in some of their previous statistics, coming 2 points short of a win against the Falcons. Coach Michael Marum has commanded 5'8" Justin Yoka, who will be partnering with Ase Boas in the halves this weekend in round 4 against the East Tigers in Brisbane.
the SPPNG Hunters will take on East Tigers at Higlands Park in Brisbane this Saturday at 4 p.m. The Tigers are first on the ladder after 3 rounds, while the Hunters are second last on the Intra-Super Cup ladder after 3 straight losses. Hunters coach Michael Marum was humbled about the Hunters' chances this weekend, quietly confident about the team's prospects.
This game, Tigers, yeah, a bit tough. Higlands Park, 4 or 5 kickoff. Yeah, we won 5 games out of 7 against them, so a bit tough game this Sunday. We want to go out and play our best football. You know, we believe in the side we selected. I think boys been playing together for a while now, so they've trained really well again. So, you know, they'll be underestimating us, so we just turn up and make sure we come with our best game here.
Up against the Sunshine Coast Falcons on Sunday, the Hunters had a completion rate of 75%, the team completing 27 out of 36 sets. Collectively, they made 232 tackles, but missed 26, and they also made 9 errors. Direction in the halves is what the Hunters need. With the return of Aseboas this Saturday, Marum has praised debutant Justin Yoka, who performed to expectations last week. He even scored a try, and Marum has opted to keep him in the 5'8" role. Marum was happy with Yoka's style of play, which ensured opportunities were created for points.
He ran the ball to the line, that's what he wants, so, you know, giving that option, he wasn't scared. And yeah, for him, first game, coming back from, you know, just straight from Pangia Rugby League to the big stage, I think that's he performed well there. So challenge for him is to back it up this weekend.
Yoka had some difficulty with the rush defense and was kicking in the face of online defense after the 5th tackle. Marum says the remedy is to stand deep and have enough time to put a good kick away.
Yeah, he'll expect more pressure now this time because the opposition will know about him. So, you know, they'll be targeting him. But, you know, we want him standing deep in that kicks. I think that the kicks were not what we wanted. You know, he kicked to the opposite sides a few times there. So, but that's his first game. He'll get better as season goes here.
Fidelis Sukina, National EMTV Sports.
The Kumul Petroleum National Soccer League will enter the 9th week of competition in the Southern Conference this weekend. All matches will be played tomorrow at the PNG Football Stadium, with the first game to kick off at 11 a.m.
The Southern Conference National Soccer League has attracted many spectators around Port Moresby. Tomorrow, Eastern Stars will take on Gulf Komara in the first match at 11 a.m. Eastern Stars and Gulf are still fighting for a top 2 finish to proceed to the finals. At 1 p.m, Hekari United will play Star Mountain. Hekari have been the most dominant team in the competition, maintaining their spot on the top of the ladder. Port Moresby United will play the young Southern Strikers outfit. Port Moresby United has proven to be a force in the competition, sitting second on the ladder. This match will be played at 3 p.m. The last match of the day will be between FC Bougainville and Central United. Central United has tried to be consistent during the competition and are still hopeful for a top 2 finish, who currently sitting 3rd. In the Northern Conference, FC Morobe Wawens will play Laiwaden. Morobe United goes up against Snacks Lahi. Besta United takes on Markham, and Toti City Dwellers will go up against Tuspab Stallions. All these matches will be played in Lae at the Sir Ignatius Kilagi Stadium. Matches in the Highlands Conference will take place at the National Sports Institute in Goroka, with Mount Hagen to take on Simbu Angras, Blue Kumuls to play Engalaima, and Naporomai will go up against Kagwa Erave. The NGI Conference is in recess and will resume their competition next weekend. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues with more after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Coach of ICTSI Palais, Paul Tidgen, says he's happy with the final team of 13 players that are leaving for Hong Kong this Sunday. He says he has no expectations of the team, but is confident the team will do well.
After vigorous training and selection trials held this week, Palai's coach Paul Pitchins is happy with his final team of 13 players. The team will be headed by captain Kimli Rapila.
So our captain is Kimli Rapila. She captained us in Sydney as well, and she's got great leadership qualities, and she's shown that since her first tournament under my guidance in November last year. She's a good director of the team. She's a very good talker. Players look up to her and respect her on and off the field, which is very pleasing for me as a coach, because I know what I'm going to get out of her and how the players will follow in her footsteps, which is definitely very reassuring as a coach.
Jin says the team has great power and speed, especially with Fatima Rama and Joanne Laguna in the team.
Best player in the world, and what about the dive? This is unbelievable.
To have those players back, Fatima Rama obviously scoring a great try in Sydney, outrunning Michaela Blyde, who was the World Rugby Player of the Year for the last 2 years, and Joanne Laguna coming back in. Two of the quickest players in the game, you may say, and they express themselves through the pace that they do have and their ability to finish and create something out of nothing. So, inclusive of Chelsea Garissa coming back from injury, she's also another great finisher, and Alice Alois obviously coming back from having a baby earlier on last year. So, you know, a very, very quick side, and I'm very excited to see what they can do, especially Sevens is about expressing yourself and attacking space, and those players definitely allow our side to do that.
He says there are no expectations from the team, but if the team can replicate what was taught during training at the games and getting the techniques right, could just have some promising results.
I mean, like I said last time, in the game of sevens, anything can happen on any given day. But I feel as though if our team can play to our potential, execute our basic skills, get our defence right, and really look to empty the tank for each other and apply the same attitude every game as we do at training back here in Port Moresby, I feel as though that we can definitely push teams, and we are good enough to be really right up there with the top 4 sides in the world. They made the top 8 last year, and I firmly believe that we are good enough to push the top sides, the likes of Japan, Argentina, Brazil, and even Scotland.
Palais will leave for Hong Kong on Sunday. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Meanwhile, Tidjin says the team will go straight into training after the Hong Kong leg of the World 7 Series qualifiers in preparation for the Pacific Games in Samoa.
So alongside the Hong Kong World Series qualifiers, we're also preparing for the upcoming Pacific Games in Apia, Samoa, which is in July. That's obviously a huge goal for us to potentially medal there, like the Palais did last time in Moresby here, where it was held in 2015. It's a huge honour to represent the Palais at a Pacific Games, like it is at a Commonwealth or an Olympic Games. So we're treating that as a big tournament for us, and then towards the end of the year in November, back to Oceania for the Olympic Games qualifying. And the Palais have a very, very good chance of potentially qualifying for the Tokyo 2020 Games. So that's a huge goal for us moving forward. So there's 2 more important tournaments to go this year. But in saying that, if we're very, very fortunate and lucky enough to qualify in Hong Kong, then we've become a full-time side on the World Series women's circuit. So it's a big year ahead for us.
Now to NRL, the first major sporting event in Christchurch since the terror attack will take place tomorrow when the New Zealand Warriors take on Manly Sea Eagles.
Players from the Auckland club have been in the Garden City visiting schools, with both teams set to carry the They Are Us hashtag on their playing jerseys tomorrow.
You know, we just want to show as much support as we can. We had our wellbeing and community team come down on Wednesday, and they're just been out at schools and helping out, trying to get the kids smiling.
Despite last week's hammering by the Tigers, coach Stephen Kearney's confident the same run-on side can tip up the winless Sea Eagles.
It happened only moments ago in the first.
This week has been about getting back to what we know works for us, and having a real focus on making sure that we execute that tomorrow night.
And before the match, both teams will join arms in a circle to observe a moment's silence for the victims of the Christchurch shootings. Last night, St George Illawarra pulled off a shock NRL upset in Brisbane, but it came at a huge cost. The Dragons' 2 Kiwi wingers, Jordan Pereira and Crusaders product Mikaeli Ravalawa, both struck against the Broncos.
Try here, the first in the NRL for Mikaeli Ravalawa in the corner. And what an effective finish that was. Yeah, that was.
However, when the visitors lost their English international Gareth Widdop with his third shoulder dislocation in 12 months, they also blew their lead. The Broncos seemed set to take the win, but another Kiwi, Jermaine Osako, missed his field goal.
It was horrible.
And former Bronco Corey Norman nailed his for a 25-24 victory, the Dragons' first of the season.
And that ends Trukai Sports with the details for the next 24 hours when we return.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A quick look at the weather forecast in the southern region. A shower or two in Port Moresby, showers and thunderstorms in Daru, rain showers in Kerema, rain and thunderstorms in Alotau, and cloudy with some showers in Popondetta.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's been the news, sport and weather for today, Friday, the 29th of March, 2019. On behalf of the entire EMTV news team, have a pleasant evening and a safe weekend. Take care. Good night.